Hello everyone and welcome back to Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews, and no, your eyes do not deceive you. This is another video coming at you today. Yeah, I know, I just started Nanmu November, but I had to throw this together because this is kind of a big deal. So a friend of mine was in Target and sent me photos of the Jurassic section, and I was absolutely gobsmacked to see that not only was the new massive biter Albertosaurus sitting on the shelf, but so were the new repaints of the Sarcosuchus and Pteranodon Soundstrike. Since the massive biters are really only showing up outside the US at the moment, I convinced my friend to pick them all up for me, and they actually got the Pteranodon for free with Target's current buy two get one free deal going on. So yeah, needless to say, I was pretty excited to see the new figures, and the timing could not have been better. I did need to get the first Nanmu review up in order to stay on schedule, but I was so excited about these finds that I decided I needed to make a whole other review for you guys today. I actually feel like I owe you since I've been inactive for so long, so here you go, I'm making up for it. But before we go any further, there is one thing I need to make clear. I do believe these things showing up on the shelves for me was a bit of a fluke. Apparently at checkout, they were not ringing up as being in the store system, and it became this whole ordeal to even purchase them. So before you go run into Target to check your shelves, just know that these figures are probably not meant to be on sale yet, and I just got extremely lucky. Are we clear on that? Okay, let's get into the review. So yeah, the new massive biter Albertosaurus by Mattel. This is the third iteration of this sculpt, the previous two being both battle damage offerings, one of which never even made it stateside. That being said, it was always a popular mold, and a lot of people, myself included, were excited to see it getting the massive biter retooling. I did a review of the original Albertosaurus a while back. Don't watch it, that video is terrible. But even though I have some problems with that figure, I do believe that this sculpt is one of the best original dinosaurs to ever come from Mattel. The details are awesome, it isn't cartoony, and it fits right alongside the screen-accurate sculpts from the company. So yeah, this is definitely a mold I was excited to see again, especially since I missed out on the battle damage repaint. That being said, there are still some key problems with the toy, and we're going to talk about all of it right here and right now on Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews. But first, the packaging. Mattel does a really good job designing the box art for their toys. It's eye-catching, distinctly Jurassic, and it frames the product quite well. I honestly couldn't tell you what my favorite box art has been so far, but when it comes to the Primal Attack line, you can see that you have a jungle paddock environment backlit by a tropical sunset. It screams Jurassic. In the top left corner, you have got the Jurassic World logo, and then beneath that, you can see the Primal Attack slogan. You've also got a push button indicator printed onto the box, and then in the bottom left corner, you can see an action diagram of the toy. The toy's title runs across the bottom, right in the middle, and then it's everybody's favorite duo, Owen and Blue, in the bottom right corner. The back of the box features that lovely computer wireframe background behind the blown up diagram of the toy in action, promising thrashing, chomping features. In the bottom left corner, you can see the Sarcosuchus is this Alberto's wave mate, and as always, do not forget to download the Jurassic Facts app so you can scan your toy into your phone and learn all sorts of facts about the animal. But enough about the packaging, I say it is time to get this asset out of containment. So there is the Albertosaurus free from the cardboard packaging, and yeah, this sculpt is just as awesome as it always was. Just for future reference to anyone out there hoping to get this figure, here's the barcode on the bottom of the box. And while we're at it, why don't we bring in the Sarco's barcode? And heck, here's the barcode of the Soundstrike Pteranodon too. But remember what I said, I don't think these things are ready for shelves just yet, so just hold on to those screenshots until they are. But anyway, the Albertosaurus, yeah, let's take a look. This is a very well detailed sculpt from Mattel, always has been, and I think the lighter color helps all of that detail be even more noticeable. You've got pebbled scales of varying shapes and sizes, lovely nasal crests and ridges, the eyes are done in a striking yellow, and the teeth are individually sculpted and painted. These are the kind of details you would hope to see on collector's models. So the fact that Mattel manages to create sculpts that look this nice for mere children's action figures, that deserves a lot of praise. And the rest of the figure is equally impressive. The wrinkling in the neck is very well handled, and I have always loved the spiked ridges that cover this thing's neck and back. That has always been such a cool sculptural decision for me. When you hit the midsection, you can see the battle damage area has been covered by some great muscle tones, bumpy scales, and folds of of skin. You've also got nice large osteoderms on the thigh to add some breakup to the other details. Those same style of osteoderms run in a row down the tail and replace the ridges on the back as well. Yeah, I definitely think the lighter paint job is really working to this model's advantage. All of that detail is so much more discernible now, and that's great because it is truly well done. The feet feature those Rexy style plate scales on the back of the toes, and the toe claws themselves are done in a shining brown color. Moving up the legs, the ankle seam is a bit separated, and it's not just mine, both of the Albertos had it, so it's something to watch out for as you're shopping for these. The anatomy on the legs themselves, though, is pretty well handled. It does still feel like they're a little on the small side, but more on that later. The arms also look nice and powerful, if tiny. The claws are unfortunately not painted as per usual, but that's just par for the course with Mattel. Taking a look at the underside, I'm very fond of the wrinkling on the lower jaw and in the neck region. That's all well handled. The underbelly is a little less complex than the flanks and back, but it still captures that leathery reptilian hide look quite well. Of course, the real reason we're down here is to get a look at that QR code. I don't know if these dinosaurs are in the app yet. I have my doubts, but either way, there it is for you. So yeah, this is still a great sculpt in terms of the details, but then we come to the weakest element of this piece. It's the same big problem I had with the original, and that is the proportions. They are so wonky. When I saw that Mattel was planning to not only repaint, but also retool this model, I was stoked. I had hopes they would listen to what people were saying was an issue with the old version and take this opportunity to course correct and deliver a more pleasing model. Unfortunately, they chose to leave this thing a proportional disaster. The head is still bulbous, the body is still too small to hold it, the legs are too skinny to hold up the animal's bull, and the tail is still laughably stubby. The only thing they seem to have changed was they made the feet bigger. Why would you? The first one stood fine. The feet were not a pressing issue here. I think it's to provide more grip for the action feature, but if you could change the size of the feet, why not the size of the rest of the sculptural pieces? I don't get that. There's no denying that the individual elements of the mold are great. The head looks great, the body looks great, the legs look great, but they feel like they all came from different models of different sizes to create some Frankenstein dinosaur with a big head and ratty tail. I don't know, I'm just disappointed that Mattel didn't really see the need to change any of that with this retool. It just feels lazy and a total missed opportunity to improve a crippling element of an otherwise awesome sculpt. Now let's talk paint. The paint job is another thing that a lot of people were excited about. Some were comparing it to the Jungle Explorers of Jurassic Park. Me personally, I don't really see it. I think green and yellow or red when it comes to the Jungle Explorers, but I still think it turned out pretty cool looking. You all know I'm usually not a big fan of Mattel's flashier color schemes, but I think this one works well. The orange and green look really cool together, and I love the sort of war paint aesthetic it has going on. The lower jaw is done in a tan coloration that ends just past the pecs, and that brings us to this model's second major problem. The paint job is once again very minimal. I guess it's safe to say it's more intricate than the original color scheme, but that's not really saying much. In fact, it feels more or less the same. The markings on this one go a little bit further down the flank, and the coloration on the underside goes a little further down the neck, but the rest is all just that base plastic still. And before you go telling me Mattel really can't do much more with color, look at these other massive biters and figures in the same price range. The one thing they have in common is that they're essentially all three colors with some small additions. I get that that might be all Mattel can do, but it's a question of how much work they put into designing the application of those colors. The Tarbo only has 3 colors, but those stripes cover it almost head to tail. It's so much more visually interesting. The Seats has a ton of purple on it and then tan stripes on the tail to break up the rest of the yellow. The Amarga has those black markings at least to the tail, and then there's Carnage. This is still Mattel's best in my eyes, but look at how intricate and lifelike they managed to make just 3 colors look on that thing. and for the same price, I might add. I don't dislike the paint job on this Albertosaurus, but it does feel pretty basic and frugal in terms of its application. I don't know why Mattel is so stingy when it comes to painting this particular mold. I think with a little extra color, it would be so incredible to look at, but Mattel either disagrees or doesn't care. So yeah, those are my two big gripes with the figure, and they're pretty big issues. Proportions and paint are like deciding factors of a model's aesthetic. It's really the same problems I had with the original, but my distaste is only heightened by the fact that Mattel had a chance to fix some of those issues. They even showed that they could do it by enlarging the feet, and then they chose not to do it for the rest still, which, you know, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating. Anyway, measurements. I guess we kind of already did a size comparison back there, so let's do some measurements. In terms of length, it's right on the cusp of 13 3/4 inches, or roughly 35 centimeters. Then it comes in at right around 5 inches off the ground in its neutral stance, or 13 centimeters, give or take. For articulation, it's pretty limited on this figure, and that's something I will miss from the battle damage version. The articulation on that was awesome. But that's the trade-off we make when it comes to having action features like this, isn't it? Really, all you can do is rotate the arms forward and back and in and out on those ball and socket joints. The legs rotate forward and backwards in unison to shift the direction of the animal from down to middle to up. But that's really more part of the action gimmick. They can't rotate independently of each other or in and out, and that's because it's all tied to the feature. And speaking of the action feature, it's time for everyone's favorite part. We brought in Chris as our unlucky victim, and as with all of the massive biters, you activate the chomping feature through a button located on the tail. Would be nice if the button was a little bigger, but then again, you'd need a bigger tail for a bigger button, wouldn't you? Anywho, then it's just a matter of holding the feet and puppeteering your toy to chomp down on your other figures. The bite strength on this one is actually pretty decent. I can thrash around human figures side to side, up and down, and it manages to hold on to them fine. It takes a good amount of pressure, but at least the mechanism is strong enough to deliver on the promised play feature. I don't think it's as good as the Seats, but then again, that one had a larger surface area to work with the mouth, so I think this Alberta is putting up a very good fight. And you can still get some good distance if you want to fling your prey away, which is always a lot of fun no matter how old you get. While we're talking about the mechanics, let's bring up the make of the model. It's much lighter than the original. It doesn't feel as sturdy as the Seats, and it does rattle a little when you shake it around, but again, that's part of the deal you make with this kind of action feature. So now it becomes a question of extent, and in that regard, I think this one is more than passable. So there you have it, guys and gals, the new massive biter Albertosaurus by Mattel. Final thoughts on this one. I feel I can say that out of all the massive biters we've received so far, this is probably my second favorite, and that's due in large part to my enjoyment of the realistic sculpted details. It's not quite as good as the Seats in my eyes in terms of build, functionality, and paint, but there's still no denying how well done the Albertosaurus mold is from Mattel. Proportional issues aside, of course. Overall, I do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the original. I think these two look great together and would definitely work as a mated pair on your shelf. I am disappointed that Mattel did not improve the formula with this one, but I still think it's a cool toy nonetheless. With that being said, I dig this figure, and I'm sure you will too. As always, I want to know what you guys think. Will you be picking this one up when it hits shelves? What is your favorite Albertosaurus from Mattel thus far? And what Tyrannosaur do you want to see them do next? Leave a comment down below, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in once again to Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews. Take care out there, and bye-bye.